The need for a language which is universally understood and spoken is widely felt, and frequently expressed. At present, English is the only language that is in a position to fill this requirement. Although there are more people who speak Chinese as their mother tongue, Chinese is still too isolated and its writing system too unfamiliar to attract attention outside of China. Russian is little used outside the East European countries. French, the world language of the 18th century, is an important common language in many countries, but is not used as widely as English. It is not used as the language of many occupations either, as English is. Spanish is important in South America, and now also in the United States, but there is little possibility of its becoming a world language. No language other than English carries universal appeal. And, until now, secondary languages such as Esperanto have made only very slow progress in persuading world authorities to pay attention to their claims. The meanings of the words good and ought are closely related. Their relationship becomes clear when one looks at areas other than morality. In doing so, however, it is important to bear in mind that we are merely trying to learn what can be learned by comparing the meanings of these words. As we shall see, they are used in many different contexts and in diverse senses. It is important not to slip into the error of appropriating a meaning from some other context. For example, the idea that a goodness is equivalent to a health, evil to a sickness, and applying it simplistically to morality. We can learn something about the meaning of as good and bad as moral concepts from this kind of exercise in analogy, but we certainly cannot learn everything. The telephone rang and Dr. Max Greitzer woke up. On the night table the clock showed 15 minutes to 8. Who could be calling so early, he murmured. He picked up the phone and a woman's voice said, Dr. Greitzer, excuse me for calling at this hour. A woman who was once dear to you has died. Liza Nestling. My God. The funeral is today at 11. I thought you would want to know. You are right. Thank you. Liza Nestling played a major role in my life. May I ask whom I am speaking to? It doesn't matter. Liza and I became friends after you two separated. The service will be in Gutstall's funeral parlor. You know the address? Yes, thank you. The woman hung up. Dr. Greitzer lay still for a while. So Liza was gone. 12 years had passed since their breaking up. She had been his great love. Their affair lasted about 15 years, no, not 15, 13. The last 2 had been filled with so many misunderstandings and complications, with so much madness that words could not describe them. The same powers that built this love destroyed it entirely. Dr. Greitzer and Liza Nestling never met again. They never wrote to one another. He hadn't even known that Liza was still in New York. The quiet life of the country has never appealed to me. City-born and city-bred, I have always regarded the country as something you look at through a train window, or something you occasionally visit during the weekend. Most of my friends live in the city, yet they always become extremely delighted at the mere mention of the country. Though they praise the virtues of the peaceful life, only one of them has ever gone to live in the country, and he was back in town within 6 months. Even he still lives under the illusion that country life is somehow superior to town life. He is forever talking about the friendly people, the clean atmosphere, the closeness to nature and the gentle pace of living. Nothing can be compared, he maintains, with the first cock crow, the twittering of birds at dawn, the sight of the rising sun shining on the trees and pastures, This pleasant country scene is only part of the picture. My friend fails to mention the long and friendless winter evenings, which are interrupted only by an occasional visit to the local cinema, virtually the only form of entertainment. He says nothing about the poor selection of goods in the shops, or about those unfortunate people who have to travel from the country to the city every day to get to work. Why people are willing to tolerate a 4-hour journey each day for the questionable privilege of living in the country is beyond my ken. They could be saved so much misery and expense if they chose to live in the city where they rightly belong. In talking to couples about communication in their relationships, I was surprised by how often men referred to their role as protectors of women in explaining why they spoke as they did. For example, one couple told me of a recent argument. The woman had noticed that her husband was favoring one arm and asked why. He said that his arm hurt. She asked how long it had been hurting him, and he said, "Oh, a few weeks." To his surprise, she reacted with hurt and anger. "Go ahead, treat me like a stranger." To her, intimacy meant telling what's on your mind, including what hurts. By not telling her that his arm hurt, her husband was pushing her away, distancing her with his silence. I instinctively understood this woman's point of view. But I did not immediately understand the man's. In explaining his side of the story, he said, "I guess men learn from the beginning to protect women." This puzzled me. I asked what protection had to do with not telling his wife that his arm hurt. "I was protecting her," he explained. "Why should I worry her by telling her about my pain, since it might be nothing and go away anyway?" Deciding what to tell his wife reflects this man's perceived role as her protector. But it also grows out of and reinforces the alignment by which he is in a superior position. He is stronger than she, and he has power to cause her worry by the information he imparts. This man does not feel, as his wife perceives, that he is trying to curtail their intimacy. Intimacy is simply not at issue for him. In her world, the imparting of personal information is the fundamental material of intimacy, so withholding such information deprives her of the closeness that is her lifeblood. Their different interpretations of the same information simply reflect their different preoccupations. They are tuned to different frequencies. The values of the group are reflected in personal values. Many Americans, especially but not only American men, place more emphasis on their need for independence and less on their need for social support. This often requires paying less attention to the super message level of talk, the level that comments on relationships, focusing instead on the information level. The attitude may go as far as the conviction that only the information level really counts, or is really there. It is then a logical conclusion that talk not rich in information should be dispensed with. Thus, many daughters and sons of all ages, calling their parents, find that their fathers want to exchange whatever information is needed and then hang up, but their mothers want to chat, to keep in touch. American men's information-focused approach to talk has shaped the American way of doing business. Most Americans think it's best to get to the point as soon as possible and not waste time in small talk or beating around the bush. But this doesn't work very well in business dealings with Greek, Japanese, or Arab colleagues for whom small talk is necessary to establish the social relationship that must provide the foundation for conducting business.